It's been some sort of a trade period, hasn't it? Some sort of a trade period. And I see, look, I know you had a go. It's getting to everyone, and it's affecting different people in different ways. You're biting on everything on socials at the moment,
No, I'm
which
not.
which I admire and respect.
I
I
am
might add.
biting. You've got no idea. I'm biting on about 0.5% on Twitter. Like, I think I sent 2 replies last night.
I'm a bit the same. I'm a bit the same.
I'm not biting on everything. There's just some. Oh my God, there's some idiots on social media. It's amazing.
You don't say, really?
It's amazing, and a lot of it is reaction to a small section of what we have said, which gets posted on social media without the full context of the whole discussion that probably goes for 10 minutes. So, anyway, that's the world that we live in.
Oh, this is why people argue for 4 or 5 day trade periods, don't they? 3-day trade periods.
A week's
even.
probably enough, isn't it?
We had 2 trades Monday. Alex Neil-Bullen and Jack Darling obviously went through. Then since then, over the last couple of days, we've had Jack Graham's free agency to chew over. That move from Richmond to West Coast. That's pretty much about it. I guess when Richmond are asking, as Tom Morris told us yesterday, for 6 and 13 as their opening exchange for Dan Rioli, then no wonder we haven't had anything get done.
No, there's a few clubs been ridiculous, as I said yesterday when we spoke
ridiculous
about that
list.
at length in terms of what Richmond are asking. Now that they're, as I said, they're entitled to do whatever they like, but I would be taking 6 and running as quickly as I possibly can. Now, I had some reaction yesterday from a few people in the industry after we mentioned 6 and 23, which you sort of suggested maybe 23 is not on offer, and apparently it's not.
It's not.
So 23 is not on offer yet, but
Never has been offered.
never
by the
has
Suns.
been. But so the report comes from Richmond demanding that it should be. So we'll see. I mean, it's a standoff, and we'll see how hard Richmond want to be. And I've said that Adam Uze needs a much harder edge than what he's shown so far in his first year as coach. This is a good test for him, and it's a really good test for Gold Coast. There's no way Gold Coast should be buckling and offering anything more than pick 6. Pick 6 is more than enough. And if it's not good enough for Richmond, we'll see how strong they want to be, and are they prepared to hold on to a contracted player.
Just keep your replies coming, though, because I'm enjoying reading through them as you engage with some of the banter on socials. You even whipped out the clown emoji last night as well, which I really...
Someone thought I'd just sit there on Twitter and punch my own name into Twitter and then read through all the tweets relating to Kane. Like, for starters, there's a For You page on Twitter now, which is no good, because you see stuff you don't want to see. Like, you're not even following these idiots, and sometimes you'll see someone and you react to that, and he searched his own. No, I haven't searched my own name. I've either been tagged in it or it's popped up on the For You page. But anyway,
just merely me reporting that Dan Houston's preference 2 days ago was to go to the Blues continues to inflame the Collingwood masses, such as their insecurity. It is just never ceases to amaze me how petty footy fans are.
Can we put that out there for our social media team? Look, it's quiet. It's deathly quiet. We don't have any guests today, so let's just fire up the tweets. Can we just say this? Sam Edmund suggests Collingwood fans are petty.
Oh, states categorically.
Collingwood fans are petty. Sam Edmund. Put that on. That on
my Twitter feed. And John's texting. Good on you, Johnny, on the IMAR text line 0426 307 511. IMAR, trusted by tradies for insurance. Call 13IMAR today. Hey, Sammy, how come Houston has now chosen the Pies over the Blues? Like, people have said, I've said he's desperate to get to Carl. Look, I'm only telling you the facts as they are. But I always said Collingwood had the whip hand. And now by virtue of the fact that Lukosius is involved here, Joe Richards is involved, Dan Houston is involved, obviously Noble is involved, and they're always going to be front of the queue because they've got things that the Gold Coast Suns want. So that might end up being a complex three-way trade. Never said he refused to play for Collingwood, ever. No. I'm only stating the facts. So there are all these people, because there's a story in The Age today saying that Dan Houston would prefer to play for Collingwood. They've all come from everywhere. They seized on it like seagulls on a chip.
Tsunami this morning.
It's unbelievable. But I'm standing by my mail. I think if he had a straight up choice between the two, he would have picked Carlton over Collingwood. But you've got to be a realist to the situation. When you're contracted for 2 more at Port Adelaide and there's so many other moving parts. This might be one of the more complex 3-club deals that we see in this trade period, with a bunch of picks getting passed around as well. Noble going to the Suns, Lukosius going to the Power, and Houston going to the Pies, and Richards involved there as well.
I was once again watching Fox Footy last night, and one of the panel members suggested that 12 for Dan Houston just gets it done straight away, and like Port Adelaide would do that. I'm not certain Port fans would be thrilled for just a straight up 12.
Well,
for
would it
Dan
be a 12
Houston.
and maybe a swap? Like if Carlton were to blink and offer 12, then you can favour the deal in the back end. That's what I keep saying it, but this is what happens in 90% of deals now. You would just say that would be the centrepiece, and then maybe there's a swapping of picks in the back end. There's a future thrown in.
Yeah,
It can be made palatable.
Yeah, they were suggesting straight swap. 12 gets done straight for
Right.
Houston, and I'm the way Port Adelaide have been talking. I'm not sure
But would
that
they blink, though?
satisfies it. Maybe they would, and maybe they're desperate to get into the draft. Maybe they've got their eye on a player, and everyone is, apart from Collingwood, wanting to get into this draft. So maybe that's the reason. But I think Port fans are going, hang on, we've spoken a pretty tough game. We've seen Richmond get pick six for Dan Rioli, and they want more. And we're just going to be happy with pick 12 for Dan Houston. So it's really interesting. I think there's a number of standoffs. The Bailey Smith one really interests me, and how the Western Bulldogs play this. And Dogs fans, I think, the majority of them are happy for the Dogs to send him through to the draft, which just will not happen. That won't happen, and they'll threaten to do that. But by the end of the deadline, this will be through.
You're really sure? We're sure of that.
I'm
Yeah.
certain. Are you
just
not?
some of the
Are you
things that
not?
they're saying. Some of the things they're saying at the moment, you would, from people who are really close to it, you think, well, maybe they aren't bluffing. Why would they bluff to me in private if they had every intention of caving in at the last minute?
Because they know that information comes out, and they've got to be on the
Yeah,
same.
but
They've got to
it's-
be on the same line. So let's play this out. And just morning to you, Sean from Broome. What time will it be before Salty Sam and Crybaby Kane will start banging on about Collingwood's recruiting? Maybe they are the most petty supporter group.
I'll
Collingwood.
rest my case.
Richmond.
Shorty.
I've got to say, Richmond are incredible. They would
They're
be
up there.
They would be my number one in terms of.
It's got a list. It's got a list in it.
Sooked up fan bases. Good morning to you, Tigers fans.
That was a lot for Collingwood fans to swallow yesterday from an off-field point of view, because Jeff Brown decided that he will not seek re-election at the Pies in 2025, stepping away from the presidency after 3 years. That's basically effective immediately. That news was confirmed about an hour after Graham Wright was unveiled as Carlton's CEO-elect as well. So a bit happening there.
Yeah,
off the
they've got a
field for the Pies.
replacement. His name I don't have in
yeah.
front of me at the moment, but they're sorted, aren't they, in terms of a succession plan?
Yeah, it's the CEO and the head of football. I think that's not the CEO. The head of football. That's the big position, and a restructure there. We'll break that down shortly. Sydney have knocked back North Melbourne's initial offer of pick 62 for Luke Parker. So the Swans are keen on significantly more than that for Luke Parker, who does remain contracted at Sydney for next year. North Melbourne hold pick 44. Who knows? Maybe that could be the one that unlocks it in the end.
Maybe Sydney just say, Luke, we'd love you to play your 300th game at Sydney, and we're going to hold you to your contract.
Oh, they hold him.
He's another one that it will not happen. That one seems pretty respectful, but they could, and I would like to see it, actually. I'd like to see him play his 300th at Sydney and not at North Melbourne.
St Kilda and the Western Bulldogs are yet to even meet. Discuss the deal for Jack Macrae. Jack Macrae did nominate the Saints, but the Dogs are still waiting to hear from the Saints about a potential deal. That one's going nowhere quickly. Jake Stringer. Now, a watch on Jake today at the Giants. Reportedly, he wants to play for GWS now. He's got his head around that. And now both teams would need to orchestrate a deal that would see Jake Stringer play for the Giants next year. So
what's he? I mean, is he thinking? I mean, he can sell this. If I'm Jake Stringer, like I think it's a shocking look, to be completely honest, to go to a third club, to not be willing to dig in and really back yourself in, get super fit, become the player that we all know that he can be. I'm just going to go because Essendon won't give me an extra year on my contract. So it's a shocking look. But if I was him, the way that you spin this, if this goes through, you say, well, I think they're in a really good position to win a premiership, and I'd love to win another one. And the Giants are as good a shot as anyone. So I've made a call in terms of having some success at the back end of my career. That's how you spin it. But this is what's he doing? Why is Jake Stringer leaving? It's just I think it's a terrible look.
All right, Mitch Cleary reported on Channel 7 last night that Finn Macrae at Collingwood is assessing his options and canvassing other clubs to see if there's a way out of Collingwood in 2025. To be honest, he's been assessing his options all year, and there's no spot for him. He would love to play somewhere else, and he would just love to play. But as we keep telling you, list spots are tied. Clubs love the draft. There's just no home for Finn McRae. They'd love to get him out of there as management, and that's been the case for several months.
Yeah, I just don't think he's up to the level, and we've seen that. If he was, he's had so many opportunities. They've been crying out for midfielders, particularly with the injuries that they've had to play. He hasn't been able to capture that spot, and those players that lack leg speed, high accumulating through the midfield. Not that he's a high possession player yet, but that don't do a whole lot of damage, aren't worth that much in the game anymore, unfortunately for him.
All-Australian, your man, Jake Waterman, the forward, has re-signed at the Eagles until 2029. The All-Australian third in the Coleman this year. Had interest from teams throughout the year, staying west after his breakout season, the best season of his career.
How long did he have left on the, was it 2?
He signed on for another 4, I think. Yeah.
So it was at least 2. It may have been 3. Once again, why the Eagles have felt the need to do this. And people will say, oh, but there was clubs that wanted to get him. Well, good luck to them. They can't get him. He's contracted. There was no need. Yes?
Yeah, one more.
There was no need. So he had 2025, come out of contract then in 2025. No need to do this now. There was just zero need. And I would love to see whether Jake can replicate what he did next year. Was that just one out of the box? Because in terms of, you look at his stats, it was. Is he capable of doing that again? Well, it doesn't matter because the Eagles have just signed him until the end of 2029. And on what I've heard, he's $1 million. So hopefully for the Eagles, his form continues. But it's another strange one for me.
Couple other bits of news yesterday. Brisbane retained a crucial piece of their puzzle. Danny Daly staying at the football club as the head of football. That is massive. And I reckon Collingwood were at the table here. West Coast were looking at him as a coach. I don't think the Eagles circle back once he said thanks but no thanks to coaching. But definitely Collingwood would have been at the table here. So decade at the club in a couple of different roles and crucial right-hand man for Chris Fagan over the last 4 years in his current position. So he's staying at the Lions. Riley Garcia signed a 3-year contract extension to remain at the Dogs. He'd had some interest as well, but that's something that the Dogs, I reckon, with Smith leaving, McRae leaving, Caleb Daniel potentially leaving as well, just wanted to retain some depth. So there'll be some opportunity for Riley Garcia next year. Jason Johannesson signs on for 1 more year as well. Not sure if many people saw that one coming, but again, a lot of moving parts of the Dogs. So the Norm Smith medalist from 2016 stays. And a spate, 4 re-signings at the Cats. Jake Kolodjasny, Jed Buse, Lawson Humphries, Ted Glassy signing new deals with the Cats.
So play this out for me. If Bailey Smith does go through, it would be the national draft. How would you think Geelong would try and play this?
Well, it'd be fascinating. It's a lot of clubs that he would have to go through. And a lot of uncertainty he would have to go through, and Geelong would have to go through as well. But then again, if the draft is as good as what everyone says, is another club going to pick Bailey Smith over this prized youngster that's going to be at your club for 10, 12, 15 years?
This is interesting.
Who would pick him first? Well, the Saints? Surely the Saints
would have to be all over him. But
they've got a glut of high-end picks now.
I don't think they're going to use pick 8 or 9 on him.
No, maybe not 8 or 9.
So this is where the Western Bulldogs fans are going, well, Bailey Smith's worth more than pick 17. Okay, well, where would he be picked? If he was in the national draft, would the Saints use pick 8 or 9 on him? I doubt that. Would Carlton use pick 12 on Bailey Smith? So this is
they're really hard questions to answer because we're not in their recruitment meetings. Like they might have a Joe Smith lined up from Werribee, who they're just so red hot on, they just can't possibly look past him. But if they don't and they're mulling over 5 or 6 names and Bailey Smith's suddenly there at 23 years of age. But then again, you're never going to get in front of Bailey Smith. He's not going to sit down. He's not going to do a medical with you.
So
he's not going to do a meeting with you.
This is why it won't happen. And then
I know. I just wish I could.
He will put his contract demands on his head. So
but if Geelong can afford him, then everyone can afford him. I don't buy into that part of it. But
Carlton can afford him. I guess if they can afford Houston, they can afford him. But
it sounds good in theory when you just walk him through the draft and someone else will take him. But in practice, it rarely happens.
You know why it doesn't happen? Because everyone is petrified and everyone is too nice. It comes back to the ruthless discussion that we had the other day. Who manages? It's Connors, isn't it? Bailey Smith. They would be petrified of the Connors powerful group that manage so many players. They say, St Kilda, if you pick up Bailey Smith, do you think you're any chance of getting such and such free agent that we also manage in 2 years' time? This is not going to. So that is all the sorts of threats that will happen. That does
happen.
100%,
Like,
100%.
not talking about that management stable specifically,
No,
but
all of
across the
them.
competition, that absolutely happens.
Yeah, but
Threats are put out
if you really care solely about winning, like we've seen and we discussed those ruthless calls that clubs have made, then if you think Bailey Smith you can get for free with a draft pick, like that is reasonable, you can go pick him up, 23-year-old, got 10 years left, and really get under the skin of Geelong and whoever, then you'd do it. But clubs are petrified. So that's why it won't happen, because the Western Bulldogs will send him through to the draft and he'll end up at Geelong anyway, and the Western Bulldogs will get nothing. How'd that work out? Well, I'm not letting you off with the Bailey Smith. What is the topic? Why is it personal against Bailey Smith, or is it personal against Geelong, or...
So I think the general overlay, just the general thinking at the Dogs at the moment is twofold. We don't want players just walking out whenever they choose, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't want clubs to think they can just walk all over us and march on in here and take our players willy-nilly. So I think it's twofold. And if it means that they go so far, and again, it's a 1% chance if they go so far as to risk losing him for nothing, and I'll ask the question, then my understanding is that's something that they would even be prepared to accept, right, to send a bigger which again gets said all the time, I know, and I understand the doubt. No one would believe it for a second. I'm just telling you what the general thinking is there at the Western Bulldogs. And I think they're going to present, if they haven't already, that line of thinking to Geelong, which is why it's going to go the distance. We said it might be a deadline day job, might be a deadline minute job. It might be a Dylan Shield job from a couple of years ago when he basically got to Essendon in the last 5 minutes of that trade period, which went right to the wire. Same management stable, funnily enough.
So what will happen? It will be their first pick, and then there'll be some things right at the back, and they'll swap some things to try and so the Western Bulldogs can say, "Oh, we got a little win."
Yeah,
there.
probably.
That's exactly what will happen, and the tough talk is just that. It is tough.
Mate, he's as tougher a negotiator as there is, Sam Power.
Is he?
He's tough. He's very tough.
Right.
You put him in a cage fight with Andrew Mackie, it's going to go the distance. So even the Josh Dunkley move in the end to Brisbane, you remember they blocked Essendon. That just was never going to happen. All sorts of pressure came in. Then even the Brisbane one went the distance as well. That was there was a lot of punches thrown in that one as well from a Western Bulldogs perspective. So they're not going to roll over easily on this. And then that's even before getting to someone like a Jack McRae, who I think people just thought, oh yeah, he'll go for 47. No, that's not going to happen either. So they're going to dig in for that as well.
Yeah, so this is, the Bulldogs fascinate me, as I've said a couple of times. This is bizarre, and the way they're now suggesting that these players are meaningful contributors to their side when they just haven't seen them in that light previously. So we'll see how it plays out, but I'm looking forward to the toing and froing, because it's going to be another week or just under before we get the answer to this.
And the fans love these stances too. I mean, they're not practical. They don't make any sense. But Dom in Armstrong Creek, exactly, Sammy, I'm happy to receive nothing. Make a statement for future players and clubs to know we ain't pushovers. Send him to the draft. But that is so damaging, isn't it? Because you can get a first-round pick in the door, potentially, 17, and to get nothing, like in a good draft as well, makes no sense either. But anyway, that's the two schools of thought. The hot seat. So I think Craig Kelly's in the hot seat and has been in the hot seat for much of the year. And yesterday it got hotter when Graham Wright was formally, as I said, announced as Carlton's new chief executive on the same day that Jeff Brown stepped down. So pretty amazing, by the way, the president does step down when the club doesn't have a permanent head of football, but they haven't had one all year. Now, Craig Kelly's had his own issues this year, accusations fired his way, documents filed in the federal court earlier this year accusing him of racism, and the reports are wide that his old Pies teammate Wright would have returned to Collingwood if not for the fact that their relationship had become untenable, I was reading in some quarters as well. The football department needs a restructure in there. They need a permanent head of football. They need to sort out their list management team. Is Justin Lepich the man full-time? Is Brendan Bolton the man full-time? What is the best fit for it? It's been in a state of flux all year with Graham Wright staying, leaving, coming back. No, he's not. And all the accusations swirling around the CEO, Craig Kelly, as well. So I think Collingwood's off-field issues are in the hot seat.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good one from you. I know it's hard to deny any of that. So they're going to have a new president. They need a new head of football. They have a new list manager, but whether they're sold on Justin Lepich as that, And they need someone strong to be consulting with the coach about the list and how involved he is with the list, as I've sort of said on day one of the trade period. So is there someone strong around Craig McRae who clearly wants to win now, and that's fine, and good luck to him. But the footy club needs to set themselves up for the future as well. And I think Darcy Moore's somewhat in the hot seat. He had a poor year, Darcy Moore, as captain of this footy club, 10th in the best and fairest. Very rarely influences games as captain. Very rarely can you look at him and say, gee, that was an inspirational captain's moment, like you can with probably 6, 7, 8, 9 other club captains. So what are they going to do with the captaincy at Collingwood? Is Darcy Moore the right person to continue on in that role? He doesn't look, I know premiership captain, doesn't look like a captain to me, the way that he played last year, 10th in the best and fairest, I said. So yeah, and then they're all in with what they're doing in this trade period, which we've spoken about at length. This is a fascinating.
So just on that,
Collingwood.
who's to sit? So that's driven by the coach. At least publicly, that's what we do. I wonder how common that is. Like, does the coach drive it all at other clubs? Like, so Craig McRae says, I want established players in. I'm not interested in the draft. I want to prioritise bringing in talent. You've got, as good as Justin Lepage is and has been everywhere, he's inexperienced in this space. They don't have a football boss either, and they're going into a trade period where the coach is saying, this is what we want to do. So is this all driven by fly? I mean, is it a universal decision? Is it just simply, this is what the coach wants, so we'll do it? And does that happen at other clubs as well?
Don't know to answer the question. I guess every club would be different. And depending on where you're seen in the game, I mean, that's why it's really hard to say no to an Alistair Clarkson type when he was at Hawthorn after you've had all the success, or Damien Hardwick at Richmond, are the two that we keep coming back to. Feels like Geelong have got the right sort of model. I feel like they have full trust in their list committee to make those decisions, and Chris Scott, I'm sure, has input into that and comes in when he needs to, but that feels like he's got full trust in the strategy that is aligned. And I think the important thing is knowing where you think you are as a footy club. Like, are you in it? Are you capable of winning a premiership? Do you have the list next year to win a premiership, or is it going to take 2-3 more years to get to that point? Like we've seen the way that Hawthorn have built, like Adelaide have tried to build. Now Adelaide clearly think they can win it now. They're at the point now. We've got a list that we think we can win it now. That's why we're making the moves that we've made. So knowing where you are at as a footy club and all being on the same page as to where you're at is really interesting and important.
If I was Adam Uze, I'd be really concerned over how competitive my side's going to be next year. And also, if I was Adam Uze, I'd really want to be sure that, given the list management direction my club is taking, not all of their own choosing, of course, that a really patient and understanding approach from the board is forthcoming when it comes to my position, because I'm losing Bolton, Baker, Rioli. That's 3 of the top 5 in the recent Jack Dyer medal. I'm losing Graham to free agency. I've lost Dustin Martin to retirement, Dylan Grimes to retirement, and Marlon Pickett to retirement. So 7 senior decorated players cut from the list, and a bunch of numbers coming the other way. Now, some very handy kids, I'm hoping, but that's not a short-term gain for a side that finished 18th this year. So if I'm Adam Uze, I'm pretty concerned at the moment.
Yeah, and you should be concerned, because he will be the one that ultimately pays the price for this strategy, which I think we're all in alignment that is probably the right one. It's aggressive, but the other complication to this is a lot of their senior players don't play. So I think it's when you have a rebuild, it's really important that you have enough experience and senior players around those youngsters. But when you look at Tom Lynch, doesn't play. Prestia doesn't play. Gibcus is a young player coming through, doesn't play. They've got a whole. Loston's had his soft tissue injuries before, pretty solid this year, pretty durable this year. But
who plays? Bolter plays. Broad plays.
Yep.
The big ruckman plays.
He gets
Nank.
injured every now and then, Nate. But
Yeah.
pretty reliable.
Plays with an aggression, though, and leads from the front. Then you got Hopper. Then you got Taranto.
Hopper doesn't play. Taranto missed 6 or 7 this year, but usually pretty durable. So
Camden McIntosh.
It's rough. Like what we're saying is it's really rough, and the risk of
Nick
leaving,
Vlaston.
Yeah, Nick Vlaston. He's had his soft tissue injuries over the journey, but as I said, pretty good last year. So yeah, you should be worried. You absolutely should be worried. Not to suggest that it's the wrong thing to do, but would they look to bring in? Would they look to the delisted free agency market with players that have experience? Because we saw the way that Hawthorn have done it, and we all keep coming back to Hawthorn, but Gunston came in. Like, what is Gunston? What are they getting Gunston for? This is completely against the strategy of what they're doing, but played an important role in a mentor sort of role, and was able to hit the scoreboard late in the year. Luke Bruce still was there, and they had some mature, like Warple stays. He's played a lot of football. They had enough experience around the youth to guide them through to see the results. So maybe Richmond will, when they get their full trade experience sort of done,
Circle back.
circle back and look what's left and see if they can bring in some experience like what North Melbourne are trying to do with Jack Darling and Luke Parker.
Maybe there's another list in that. The delisted free agents most likely to be given another chance. It's just as I scroll through here quickly, there are a number of names who might be of interest. Like I look at Seb Ross, has he got some football left to give? Like
Perfect player like that. Like even
a hardened body,
Yeah.
a guy who's seen a lot of footy.
Like,
Just
man,
he's not the answer, but you get him in.
100% you get him in, and he starts in your midfield next year. I mean, his memory, I'm not sure where he's at with the Saints, but his memory
Nowhere.
a player that
Yep.
you would look to bring in, at least give you a lead-up target, hits the wings hard, and, I don't know. So there's enough names around the place, but maybe that's what they have to do to bring one or two or three more players that have sort of played that 100, 150 games in to guide the youth.